Hello guys, Travis here, and welcome to my top 10 best games of 2022. 2022 had a lot of ups and downs for gaming. As I talked about in my worst games list, there were a lot of games that were middling and didn't deserve to be on either list. That being said, there were also games of 2022 that were absolutely incredible and deserved all the praise that was thrown at it. The games on this list are why I love video games so much, and why I look forward to what every year has to bring. But with all that being said, this is my top 10 best games of 2022. At number 10, I have Stray, an indie game where you play as a cat in the future surrounded by a world of robots. But there is more to this world than meets the eye. So you as a cat and your robot friend have to find the answer to what is going on and what caused it. This game is very unique as it isn't every day you play a game of this quality where you get to play as a cat or any other kind of animal for that matter. The game is a third-person platformer adventure game where the cat can access new areas by interacting with the environment, such as taking a pulley in a bucket and knocking over paint cans, just to name very few things. It seems rather simple, but there is more to this game than meets the eye, as outside the walls is where the enemies that look to kill will be found, and you as the cat have to find ways to navigate these terrains and these dangers to survive and find the truth. The visuals, the music, and the gameplay for being a game where you play as a cat was really well done, and I was pleasantly surprised at how good it actually was. This is the first game developed by Blue 12 Studios, and it was a fantastic starting point, and I know that if they keep on this trajectory, we will be seeing them on the best games list a few more times in the near future. Whee!
Soldier second class Zach on the job.
At number 9, I have Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion. This is a prequel to the Final Fantasy VII Remake and the original, as the story in Crisis Core remain unchanged from the original game. Crisis Core begins 7 years before the events of Final Fantasy VII, and you play as Zack, who is a soldier just as Cloud is in Final Fantasy VII. You also get more scenes with Sephiroth, which is never a bad thing, as Sephiroth is a total badass. The combat is very similar to Final Fantasy VII Remake with a few changes, including the DMW, which is also in the original, which stands for Digital Mind Wave, which is basically like a slot machine-like mechanic, where if you get matches, you get a variety of effects. This mechanic wasn't perfect, and I preferred what was done in the Final Fantasy VII Remake more, but for what it was going for, it worked pretty well. I think this game adds a lot to the story of Final Fantasy VII, and I'm happy this was released because I never owned a PSP, so I was never able to play the original game. The graphics in this game were great, not quite on the level as the Final Fantasy VII Remake, but still really good, and the voice acting is on par with the remake. Crisis Core did a great job of getting me even more excited for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is due out in 2023, and I cannot wait. At number 8, I have Bayonetta 3. I had never played the other Bayonetta games because I never really had the means to. I own the Switch now, and before that, the last Nintendo console I owned was the Nintendo 64, so I didn't really have the means till now to play the Bayonetta games. And because of that, I was excited to see what this franchise was all about, and I was not disappointed. The game had amazing set pieces and monster fights that you won't soon forget, as graphically they are amazing to look at. The normal combat is very much a hack and slash similar to the Devil May Cry games. I think graphically this is on the level maybe the best the Switch can offer with the limitations that it has. The story of the game is very intriguing as it jumps around to different characters as this game dives deeper into the multiverse of Bayonetta.
Hello?
Please, someone help me before it's too late.
Hey, what is it? Don't tell me you got the date wrong.
No, it's today. And it's here.
What?
Enzo,
What the
you
hell?
wait right here.
Whoa.
Got
What?
it? Right here. Don't move one.
I'm walking here. This game also has a wide variety of enemy types, bosses, and level designs that will always keep the game feeling fresh. In the end, this was a great installment to the franchise, and I'm happy I was able to play it now, as now I want to go back and play the previous game so I can get all the lore that I missed before, and I'm also excited to see where this franchise goes next. I feel like fighting game fans, some of them hate anything new. At number 7, I have Midnight Suns, a Marvel turn-based game made by Firaxis, the creators of XCOM. I was skeptical before this game came out because I wasn't really sure about the whole card game thing. I wasn't sure how that was going to affect things. But to my pleasure, I ended up really enjoying it and liking the card game aspect of the game. You can really build up your deck with upgrades throughout until you have the best deck for your style. The game also allows you to talk to other heroes in the hub world throughout the game and allows you to choose from light or dark options. Unfortunately, these options do not affect the outcome of the story, which sucks, especially with dealing with dark or light options. And that's something that could have had this game even higher on the list, but maybe we will get something like that if they do a sequel. The story of the game was a really solid superhero story, and I thought got better as the game went on, and it really sucked me in and made me interested to see what would happen next. Midnight Suns also allows you to travel around the hub world and find different options and obtain different powers that allows you to unlock more story behind the main characters and more abilities. Building relationships with the other heroes is also important, as you can get stronger cards for the other heroes' decks that can be used in combat, which is super important because you always go into a mission with 3 characters. I hope this game gets a sequel, which based on the credits seems like almost a certainty, at least DLC, because I really think this is a strong entry, and I feel like Firaxis can build onto this game and make an even better game next time. At number 6, I have Ghostwire Tokyo, a very unique game that I'm not sure I've played anything like before. The game is about a spirit who has taken control of the body of the main character named Akito.
I will be your salvation, your soul redemption. Your souls shall be purified and form the foundation of the world to come. A suitable vessel has been ready in anticipation of your arrival.
Akito can control his body except for his right hand, which is under control of the spirits, and gives him magical abilities such as wind, fire, and water blasts that come from that hand. Each of these abilities are equipped for different enemy types. Speaking of enemy types, the enemy types in this game are very creative and very different than most games, and I really enjoyed the creativity put into them. I also really enjoyed the side missions in this game, and I looked forward to all of them as they felt just as important as the main story, which I love in games because it gives a reason to want to do the side missions in the first place. The graphics in this game are also great. All environments and some of the visuals were something to behold, and you can really see the attention to detail that went into the world. I hope we do see a sequel to this game from Tango, as this game was really unique, and I would love to see where they take this world in this franchise next. At number 5, I have Xenoblade Chronicles 3, a series that I had briefly played with Xenoblade Chronicles 1, but never got a chance to finish. I enjoyed this game so much that what it pretty much accomplished is it made me want to go back and play the rest of the Xenoblade games so I can get the full story of everything that is going on, since they are all connected in one way or another. This game follows the journey of Noah, Lanz, and Uni, to name a few characters, as they go on a journey to try to liberate colonies and try to figure out the truth of what is going on and who they can and cannot trust. The combat is very similar to the first 2 games, as the characters swing their weapons on their own, and you kind of control the special abilities that the characters do. Of course, there are improvements still made to the combat from the previous games that makes everything smoother and run a lot better. I would say based on what I played of the first game and what I've seen from the second game, this is the best version of the combat, which should always be the case, as things should always improve as the series goes on. The graphics of this game are also top notch for the series, as there are a lot of beautiful visuals and beautiful cutscenes you see throughout the game. As I said, this game really made me a big fan of the franchise, and I cannot wait to play the other games and to see where the franchise goes next, as I am sure there is more story to be told.
What is that? They're here. Don't drop the torch.
You're fucked, bro.
Yes.
Woo! At number 4, I have A Plague Tale Requiem. A game with Game of the Year potential that is only really at 4 because 2022 had some generational defining games in it, and some games I just like slightly better. All that being said, A Plague Tale Requiem was a fantastic game that built off Plague Tale Innocence perfectly as you follow the main characters Amicia and Hugo as they try to figure out the cause of Hugo's illness and try to cure it so that Hugo could finally live a normal life. The game is very much still a stealth game, just like the first game was, but with more variations to allow for player choice, so if you want to be more aggressive towards enemies, you can as you go deeper into the game. That being said, you don't want to get too carried away because resource management is still a big part of the game. You can be left with no combat items other than basic rocks if you get too carried away. Another big part of the game, like the original, is the rats. But unlike the original, the rat sections in this game are bigger and better than ever, as some of the more visually stunning parts of the game are in these sections. Speaking of visually stunning, this game is beautiful with vast level designs and fantastic set pieces very similar to Tomb Raider or Uncharted, but with a much darker theme. The voice acting in this game is very good and feels much better than the original, even though a lot of the characters are voiced by the same voice actors. Overall, I just think as a story, character-driven game, this was easily one of the best games of the year, and I enjoyed every moment of Innocence and Requiem, and I cannot wait to see what Asobo Studios does next. At number 3, I have Elden Ring. I wasn't sure how I was going to like this game because I've never really been the biggest fan of the Dark Souls style games. I have beaten Sekiro back in 2019, but that game wasn't really considered a traditional Dark Souls game, so this was my first trip into that world, and I was pleasantly surprised at how much I really loved this game. This game had some of the coolest boss fights while also being some of the toughest boss fights I have ever encountered in some parts of the game. The player can choose between various classes at the start of the game, from a prisoner who uses magic, a samurai, and a vagabond for seasoned Dark Souls players, just to name a few. In this game, you get things called runes, which are very similar to souls in Dark Souls. But once you have enough runes, they can be used to level up a stat at campfire such as HP, FP, stamina, or an attack power. Unless you want to make the game super hard on yourself, which some people may, it's a good idea to do a little bit of grinding to help level up your character to a good point so that the bosses do not one-shot kill you, which can happen depending on who you run into early on, especially if you run off the path a little too far. The game also has some good hidden side missions that you should always keep an eye out for because you can miss it and then you won't be able to go back to it because the quest giver will be gone. So there's your PSA to keep your eyes peeled for that. Beyond that, there are some sections in this game, atmosphere-wise, that is truly breathtaking. As you get deeper into the game, you run into more areas that are amazing visually, and based on what I've seen, some of From Software's best work to date. This game truly is fantastic, and what I feel like could be any person's gateway into getting more into the Dark Souls games. This game has me more open to wanting to try out the other Soulsborne type games, and to say that means a lot because I don't feel like that is something I would have said before playing this game.
Through a lifetime spent in the pursuit of knowledge, one question consumed me. How did our world come to be? The old ones perished 1,000 years ago, triggering the extinction of all life. She showed me how it was reborn.
At number 2, I have Horizon Forbidden West. This may be a controversial one to have over Elden Ring for some, but Horizon Zero Dawn was my game of the year in 2017, and I feel like Horizon Forbidden West took what Zero Dawn did well and built on that to make an even better and more immersive experience while also making improvements where they needed to be made. This game, just like Zero Dawn, follows Aloy as she travels to the west to find the source of a plague that kills all that it comes in contact with, while also running into new enemies. I thought the story, which dug more into the lore of this world, was awesome, and gave a new, unique take that I didn't see coming, and I loved it for that. One of the things that stands out is how much they improved the side missions. I felt like every side mission meant something, like it was a story of its own, and that is something I adore about games, when they can make side missions a story of its own to make them feel super important. That is something that was also great about Witcher 3 in that sense. I love the new robot enemy designs that were used in this game, such as the Viper that was a pain in the ass but also super fun to fight. They also improved on the climbing in the game. Whereas Zero Dawn, you could only climb in certain areas the game showed you could climb on, this game gives you a very diverse climbing area that allows you to get to more areas for more exploring. I also thought that the customization was much better in this game, as you can get multiple different kinds of new gear, and also eventually get new colors for that gear to customize it more to your liking. I just loved almost everything about this game. There are some small improvements to be made, and some they have already made, like Aloy making a comment every time she picks up something, which has already been fixed. I cannot wait for the Burning Skies expansion that is due out this year, and I cannot wait to see where this franchise goes next, because I know it'll be a wild ride.
Is it hurt?
Is her. The state is not far. Get ready.
Falcon!
At number 1, I have God of War Ragnarok. Some would say this is probably not a big shock because I adore the God of War franchise, especially the Norse mythology saga, but all that being said, this game even blew all of my expectations out of the water. This game is what I like to call a perfect game. I thought the 2018 game was the best, but this game found a way to take that masterpiece and build onto that to make another masterpiece on a higher level on a bigger scale. The story of this game is the best story I personally have ever played in a video game, and I enjoyed every second of it. You get to really see how Kratos, Atreus, and Mimir's relationship has grown throughout the 3-year gap between games, and how they are more companions now than strangers, which they felt like they were in the 2018 game because they didn't really know each other all too well. I think the person everyone was excited about in this game was Thor, and he did not disappoint, as Thor was fucking incredible and one of my favorite antagonists of all time. And the voice actor Ryan Hurst, who some may know as Opie from Sons of Anarchy, did an incredible job in this role, along with the rest of the voice actors in this game, which, as far as I'm concerned, could have all been up for Best Actor at the Game Awards, and I would have been perfectly fine with it. Also, being able to go to all 9 realms is incredible, and this game did not disappoint, as every realm feels like a different game, because every realm has a different look, with different enemy types and a different feel, and a good amount of different side missions, which, like Horizon, is like stories of their own, and in some instances really gives you a look into the past of some of the characters. And as much as I talked up some of the bosses in Elden Ring, there are some bosses in this game that are peak and visually the best boss fights I have played, and I cannot wait to go back to be able to fight them in a new playthrough. In the end, I feel like I was blessed to be able to play the 2018 game and then Ragnarok, as I feel like it was the pinnacle of video game storytelling, and just not the kind of game we get on a regular basis. If the God of War franchise continues, I cannot wait to see where it goes next, as I have no doubt that Sony Santa Monica would have another masterpiece up their sleeve, because they have earned my trust, and I know they will steer the franchise in the right direction. That is my top 10 games of 2022. Like I said, a lot of fantastic games came out in 2022, and games that define why I love video games. 2023 is shaping up to be one of the best years yet, as it looks like there will be a ton of video games coming out that I cannot wait to play. Let me know in the comment section below what your top games were in 2022. Do you agree with my list, or do you think you would have placed them differently? Or would you have had a completely different list altogether? Until then, that is going to do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and here is to a better 2023. Bye, guys.